You can call Nancy, she gon' get the job done. BBE, you gon' get the best outcome. She's always on the go, raise your glass, let's toast. Everybody knows, everybody knows. Hello, Nancy. Hello, Nancy. Hello, Nancy. Hello.
Hello family, it's your girl Nancy. Today I have a very special guest with a very special interview. The one and only Bianca Dawkins is here to share some special insights with you. Stay tuned.
Mission over motion with Bianca Dawkins. When you say mission over motion, where did that language come from?
Yes, and thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to be here with the BBE community. So for me, the saying around mission versus motion came a time in my life where I felt like I was misaligned. I was so busy, I was always doing things, but I didn't feel fulfilled internally. I am a woman of faith. I grew up in church, and I realized that, you know, whenever I constantly had my conversations with God, he would always tell me, like, what you're doing, that's not it, right? And so having those conversations constantly with God helped me guide and understand the things that I was doing that may have looked busy, but wasn't necessarily aligned with what my gifts and my mission was for in life. We do live in a world where, you know, we focus on just busyness. And so a lot of that busyness looks like people are on mission, but in reality, a lot of people are just like running in place.
Or on a hamster wheel, just
On a hamster
constantly,
wheel.
yes.
Yeah, and not all motion, you know, is impactful. And so for me, that's where the saying came at a time in my life. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I get it. Not all motion is aligned with your mission. So making sure your steps is in line with your mission.
Yes.
So we're not just taking steps and having motion that isn't having a direct correlation with your goals.
Exactly.
And outcomes you would like. Thank you for that, Bianca. What were you seeing or experiencing that made that phrase necessary? So you kind of alluded to and articulated that you had all this busy motion, but it wasn't in a line with your mission. So you've kind of already articulated that. But how did you kind of come up with the phrase mission over motion?
Yeah. The best example I can give is being in rooms where, you know, your ideas were being welcomed, but not necessarily your leadership, right? And so I would always, you know, I'm always been a very self-aware person. And so when I kind of did an assessment of like how people are receiving me, right? Was it coming from a space of like, they're actually like welcoming and warming, or were they taking from me? And so I knew that that was like an indicator for me to say, oh, I'm not aligned in this space. Because if you're not being celebrated for the things that you're bringing to the table, I think that's a really huge indicator of like, are you actually being valued in those spaces? And so when I talk about the mission piece, all of that should come naturally, right? The welcoming, the celebrations of your gifts and talents, you shouldn't feel like a threat to the people that you're serving. And so for me, it was just really important to like assess that energy that I was getting, because we live in a world that just takes. And it's like, there is no reciprocity in this, right? I'm in rooms that I'm not even being invited into, but trying to break it down. It's like, wait, why do I even want to be at that table when I can build my own?
Exactly.
You know, and so that's kind of how I assess like the rooms in which I get put in, how I'm being received, how I'm being celebrated. And I will say, like, coming into BBE, I was telling Nancy when I got here, I was telling my kids, I was like, wish me good luck. I was like, hold on, don't wish me good luck, wish me good alignment. Because like, that's what this space has done for me. I don't need luck when you already got it, but it's like, is it aligned, right? And I've always felt in alignment since I've been welcomed into this space.
Well, thank you. And we appreciate your times and talents. And as you said, you're a spiritual person, so even just alignment with your favor and what God has blessed you with versus fighting for a seat at the table. So was there a moment when you realized you weren't moving, but not necessarily aligned? So like you were moving, but you're not aligned. And you've kind of already articulated on this, how you're making motion daily or you're in a space, but you're not feeling welcome or your talents, or you're fighting and clawing through this space when you should be well received. So all of these questions kind of piggyback on each other and continue to articulate what you're saying. But was there ever a time that you felt specifically that you were moving, but you weren't aligned?
Yeah, the best advice I can give around that is I like to associate this with like dating, right? I think we confuse attraction with alignment. And so a lot of times, like, and I remember, you know, in a situation, I was like having to tell someone like, hey, chemistry don't mean commitment, right? You have to understand the levels and layers to things. And so I look at my professional opportunities in the same way as like dating. Like, okay, that might be attractive opportunity, but is it aligned, right? Like we sometimes, when you pray for things constantly, sometimes like God will sneak in a test and you might go for it, but then it's like he'll try to teach you like, wait, that's not actually what I prayed for, right? Because it looks attractive, you might try to get yourself off, because we literally get tempted with all type of things, right? Like there might be an opportunity in New York, but I'm like, actually, I'm supposed to be in Minnesota. And so just making sure you understand the difference between what's actually attractive versus what you're actually aligned with. And I think sometimes we confuse alignment with comfortability. And alignment's not always going to be comfortable, right? Like just like a car, when you get alignment, you might need to get a tune up, might have to like work some things through, because like it's constantly trying to help you develop who you are. And so I had to tell people that like alignment doesn't mean comfortable, because some days I'm like, why am I even still here, right? But I know that I'm on mission and this is what I'm supposed to do. But that takes a lot of like telling yourself the truth and unlearning some of the like toxic behaviors that you might have for yourself.
How do you personally distinguish motion and mission? So you've said to be very strategic. You know, life is like a chess game, being very intentional with the steps that you take. And also understanding alignment means what's for you is for you. You don't always have to fight and claw all the time. But how do you distinguish your motion and mission? You've kind of said strategically.
Personally? Yeah. So I think personally for me, when I'll use networking as an example. So when I first started to come up in my career, it was all about, you got to connect with everybody, you got to get the most business cards, you got to get the numbers, you got to just be everywhere. But then I quickly realized that, one, I didn't need to be in relationship with everybody. And two, that it wasn't an impactful strategy of like actually getting the people around me that I needed to have at my table to actually build. And what I mean by like you don't need to be in relationship with everybody is sometimes we allow the human form of like vampires to come and then they just like take. And so you have to assess the reciprocity in the relationships that you're getting. Now, I am okay with some transactions if I know what the outcome is going to be. But when you're dependent on just the quantity of people, like you're going to lose the quality of yourself. And so I think, you know, networking is the best example I can give in like my personal life. I'm not an outside person, but I do, you know, intentionally show up in spaces. Like I don't want to get invited everywhere because I'm not probably going to show up. But if I say, you know what, I need to be in that space because I need to be impacted, I need to pour into that, I'm going to be very intentional about that. And so I've been blessed to have the ability to like not allow vampires to like come into my life and like drain me, because I have been there because I'm just a caring person. But I realized like, wait, I don't have to carry everything. I don't have to be in that relationship. I'm going to set a boundary, and that's okay.
Boundaries are important. What I also hear is not always transactional, but transformational in your steps and actions. Yep. Well, leadership under pressure, bringing it into the current moment. How do you protect your mission with high expectations?
Yeah, that's a great question. Protecting your mission with great expectations. I think the first thing, for me at least, is you have to have allies. You have to have allies who are going to speak the life into things, speak the life into you, and speak of your name in rooms that you might not be there. So one thing for me, I trust my allies so much that I know that, you know, if I'm in a room that I'm either not in or they know I should be in, they're gonna plant seeds. And so I think that's the way that I protect it. Like, I don't try to like be territorial about it. I allow the gift in the right hands to manifest itself and to help keep the life of it going. So that's how I protect it. Like, I think, you know, we think that protecting means just to hold close, but honestly it's no. Help people carry that, you know, want to see you do good, that want to see the mission do good. And that's how it gets protected.
And who speaks of your integrity when you're not in the room.
Yep.
Allies are very important. We all need them.
Yep.
So what practices do you do to keep you grounded?
I would say I breathe. I just like, I keep quiet in moments where I just like, you know, there's too much noise. I take space for myself to just sit in quiet. So I think, you know, meditation and rejuvenating myself, whether that's, you know, going to a spa or just like being at home alone for a little while or going to the gym. So like taking time to like pour into myself. So health is important. It's really important. So I would say that's probably the key for me right now is that health piece.
Yes, and that quiet space is when other things click in that quiet moment, but meditation, all those tranquil things that kind of helps communicate, because we communicate in different ways, right?
Yep.
And that's communicating to your body. It's okay and lessening that anxiety to keep the motion going. That keeps you in alignment.
Yep.
But it's like oiling your bells and whistles, keeping things working and maintenance, which is very important because life can be very stressful. And I too, self-care, I do acupuncture. And I'm very intentional in that 30 minutes that I turn my phone off. It's not even on vibrate. And just that tranquility piece and unplugging from the world at that moment. Because life can be so demanding, so demanding. And so I think you're right, just taking those moments, yoga, a walk, morning tea, you know, tea Tuesdays and all those good things. But I really do thank you for this valuable conversation. And I am going to pass the baton right now to Nancy. And the pleasure has been all mine speaking with you, my beautiful lady.
All right, welcome back, everyone. So we're going to switch gears a little bit. We're still here with our wonderful Bianca Dawkins from the Timberwolves. We've been chatting a bit about rest and relaxation. And I was sharing with you a little bit about Ghana and how I took a group of women back to the motherland and how wonderful it was to finally dial down. I think we had a really good conversation on why we need this type of rest. Now tell me, when do you discern when you need to slow down? When do you actually realize that, okay, you know, it's time to unplug? Can you share with us, when's the last time that you did get to unplug and got to actually slow down completely?
I love that. Yeah, I think the discernment for me is if I'm just like doing things with no intent. If I'm just trying to be busy, it's just like, why am I trying to be busy? That's when I know that I'm just doing. And that's the moment where I'm like, you know what? You need to just like chill, come back to yourself. And it's so funny because I thought that, you know, I would like journaling. And I actually don't like journaling because for me, I was like, I'm over here like fluffing up stuff, right? Trying to make it sound good. It's like, who am I kidding? I need to be actually like trying to tell myself the truth of like where I'm at. And so I was like, I'm not gonna do journaling because that's a way to kind of rewrite the story in like a not so like honest way. And so I was like, you know, how can I actually really lean into myself, and it's through conversation. Like I love talking to people. I'm just an out loud processor, to a little bit to a fault where it's like, I don't need to hear that, Bianca. But I'm just such a processor. So I've just started to have more intentional conversations with just like my little board of directors, which I call it, which are trusted individuals in my life.
Board of
I have a personal, I have literally a personal board of directors for my life. Like people I can call for if there's things happening in relationships, business, whatever. And those, I have 5 people who I can call on.
Wow.
So
That's
my
a
board of
strong
director, yeah, it's literally for my life, because it's like I know that they're gonna give me the honest truth, and sometimes tell me like, hey Bianca, you're overthinking. And so instead of a journal, I lean on the board of directors.
I love that so much. I
Yeah.
think you may have a better board than most nonprofits here in Minneapolis. Let's be real. So I'm trying to convince Bianca here to join us on the next trip to Ghana, May 4th to May 14th. Shameless plug.
Yeah.
So I want to know, what are some of the last thoughts you would like to share with our audience about self-care and also about being true to themselves?
Yeah, no, I love that. So I would say get away from the idea that you have to do things in isolation. And we talk about Ghana,
Yes.
things are done in villages,
Yes.
right? So we got to get back to our understanding of how to be together. So don't buy into the idea of like independence, because honestly, a lot of what we see as independence is isolation, and people are actually dying in isolation.
Loneliness.
Being being depressed and things like that. And so I would say stop buying into those ideas that you have to do things alone, and find your village, right? And find the opportunity to like actually be with people, be in love, be in loss, be in lessons, right? And so that's just how I see it.
I wish I could give you a mic so you could drop it. But I do want to piggyback on that.
do the
Somebody
hand
get me a
thing.
mic. I do want to piggyback on that. I recently read an article that said that the average household size today, 2026, is less than 2.3. I don't know where they got that 0.3. maybe it's the cat, or I don't know what it is, but if you think about it, that's pretty sad. And then it actually went up. It used to be 1.6, where they're saying more and more people are living by themselves.
Yeah.
And then we're also talking about the male loneliness epidemic. Anybody heard of that? Let's talk about it.
Yeah.
So, and that's why I asked you that question, right? I would love to see more people coming out and getting together. And I asked you earlier, I thanked you for your time and for coming out on your day off. And you said, I'm here.
Yeah.
I'd rather be here. And that meant a lot, because that's what we're trying to get people to do, is just come outside.
Yep.
Now, if you were to come to Ghana with us, I just switched up the whole conversation. I'm telling you, if I drop enough seeds, she's going to come. What would be your intention? What would be the goal for you to achieve there?
I think the first thing for me would be to experience freedom outside of expectation. Like, I think we try to talk about freedom as this thing that is just available to everybody, but it's scarce. It's a scarcity. And so I want to feel like a true freedom outside of an expectation of the daily 9 to 5, the do this, the structure, right? I just want to feel what it feels like to just be, right? What does that feel like?
I can't wait. Well, I hope you allow us to help you experience that.
Yes.
Bianca, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Yes.
You can actually find Bianca everywhere, guys. She's an icon. Tune in again for the next episode of Hello Nancy. Thank you so much for joining, and we'll see you next time.
I love it.